Authorities have confirmed the body of a man was discovered near the riverside this morning. The victim suffered severe injuries, including half of his face being torn away. While investigators believe it may have been caused by a wild animal, officials have yet to identify what could have caused damage of this nature. Richard finished work early on a cold winter evening. The newsroom was quiet. Richard packed his bag, shut down his computer, and headed for the elevator. "Richard, wait." Richard turned and saw Kenji standing with his fiancée. This is Aiko. We're going on a date tonight. We're trying this new restaurant. Be careful. Did you hear the news? The man found near the river? Something strange happened. Relax. We'll be fine. See you Monday, Richard. Yeah, have fun. Kenji wrapped an arm around her shoulders as they walked away together. They were laughing before they even reached the lobby doors. Richard watched them for a moment longer than he intended. Then he looked away and stepped into the elevator alone. It was nearly Friday night. Across Tokyo, people were meeting friends, going on dates, or heading home to their families. Richard, meanwhile, had nowhere to be. No plans, no messages waiting on his phone, just another quiet evening ahead. Years ago, that never bothered him. 15 years ago, his high school sweetheart Jessica had cheated on him with his best friend John. The betrayal had ended both relationships at once. After that, Richard decided love simply wasn't worth the risk. No marriage, no serious commitments, no expectations. It was easier that way. For a long time, he believed it. Lately, though, he found himself questioning that decision. Maybe it was age. Maybe it was watching everyone around him build lives with other people while he ate dinner alone every night. Whatever the reason, he had started entertaining thoughts he never used to have. A companion wouldn't be that bad. Richard worked as a news reporter for a Japanese news agency. Fresh out of college, he had moved from America to Japan after landing the job. At the time, it felt like the start of an adventure. Every day brought something new. Learning Japanese, exploring unfamiliar neighborhoods, getting lost and discovering places you would have never found otherwise. Even ordinary tasks felt exciting. Back then, Tokyo felt endless, but excitement eventually becomes routine. After nearly 7 years in Japan, the city no longer felt mysterious. The train routes were familiar, the streets were familiar, even the stories he reported on felt familiar. What had once been an adventure had slowly become a life. A quiet one. Before heading home, Richard stopped at his usual izakaya. The restaurant was packed, yet nobody spoke to him. He walked in, sat at the same booth he always used to, the ordering tablet mounted on the table. A few taps later, he ordered a bowl of spicy bulldog noodles. No waiter came to take the order. No one asked how his day was. Several minutes later, a small robotic cart rolled up beside the booth carrying his food. A screen displayed his order number. Richard lifted the bowl from the tray, grabbed his beer, and watched the robot roll away toward another customer. That was the entire interaction. He ate while scrolling through his phone, playing the same game he had been wasting time on for months. He finished eating, paid through a self-checkout screen near the exit, and left without speaking a single word to another person. Outside, the sun was already beginning to disappear behind the city skyline. Cold air drifted through the street as Richard started the familiar walk back toward his apartment. As he passed the temple he walked by every evening, he glanced at it. Tonight was different. Instead of continuing home, he crossed the old bridge leading to the temple grounds. Richard climbed the stone steps and threw a coin into the offering box. Tonight, he made a simple wish. He wished for a new life. He sat down on the nearby bench. The grounds were nearly empty. All of a sudden, he noticed a figure standing in the shadows. Someone was there. A woman stood alone near the edge of the courtyard. She wore a beautiful traditional Japanese kimono decorated with flowers. Long black hair rested down her back. Richard was about to keep walking when he heard a strange sound. She was crying. Normally, he would have minded his own business. Then a soft perfume drifted through the air. "Excuse me, are you okay? Do I sound okay?" "Not really." "At least you're honest." "At least you're honest. My name is Hannah." "Richard, are you all right?" "Nothing is all right. We can talk, if you want. I moved to Tokyo. I thought everything would change. I work every day. I go home every night. The years keep passing." "That sounds familiar. You're lonely too?" "I practically have a PhD in it. My parents want me to come home and marry a man they've been trying to introduce me to. And you don't want that." "No, but I don't know what I want anymore." "Life rarely works out the way we planned. That's supposed to make me feel better?" "Not really, but it's true. You're still here, you're still alive. That means you still have time to figure things out. Whatever's waiting for you tomorrow, it'll still be there. So go home, get sleep, stop crying. You're kind." The next evening, Richard found himself walking toward the temple again. He told himself it was just part of his route home. That was a lie. When he reached the temple grounds, Hannah wasn't there. The courtyard sat empty beneath gray skies. Richard wandered around for a few minutes before taking his usual seat. He stayed longer than intended, staring out at the river below the bridge. For some reason, he felt disappointed. Eventually, rain began to fall. Small drops at first, then a steady shower. Richard stood and started toward the exit. That's when he heard the familiar voice behind him. "You'll get sick if you walk home like that." Richard turned. Hannah stood beneath her umbrella. "You weren't here earlier, and you noticed." "Maybe. Take it. What about you?" "I'll be fine." "Somehow I doubt that." "Then just bring it back tomorrow." Richard accepted the umbrella. That night, he placed the umbrella beside his front door and found himself staring at it longer than necessary. He cooked dinner, sat down at a small kitchen table and ate while the rain tapped against the apartment windows. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel quite as empty. And for reasons he couldn't explain, he couldn't stop smiling. The next day, he returned the umbrella. The day after that, he stopped by again. Then again, Soon, visiting the temple became part of his routine. Whenever Richard arrived, Hannah was already there waiting. Sometimes they sat at the temple steps. Sometimes they walked around the grounds. And sometimes they simply talked for hours. Days slowly turned into weeks. Richard found himself looking forward to seeing her more than anything else. Do you ever think about going back to America? Not really. Why not? There isn't much waiting for me there. And here? Maybe. Richard sat at his desk, staring at unfinished notes, while the same thought replayed in his head. Hannah. Every story he wrote took twice as long. Every meeting felt like background noise. More than once, he caught himself smiling at absolutely nothing. A hand suddenly landed on his shoulder. What's going on with you, man? What? Exactly my point. It's like you're never in the zone anymore. It's nothing. Oh, it's definitely something. Before Richard could answer, Kenji pointed toward the office at the end of the room. Boss is calling you. A few minutes later, Richard was sitting in front of the manager. Richard, your performance has dropped. I know, I'm sorry. Mr. Tanaka slid several reports across the desk. Deadlines missed. You've never worked like this before. The company is considering letting you go. Please don't do that. Give me another chance, I'll fix it. 6 months. I'll give you 6 months. But you're being transferred. Transferred? A branch office in another town. They need experienced reporters. Take it or lose the job. I understand. That evening, his walk to the temple felt heavier than usual. The entire way there, he thought about Hannah. How was he supposed to tell her? When he entered the temple grounds, she was already there waiting. You're late. Yeah. What's wrong? I'll be moving. It's not what I wanted. Hannah was quiet. Hannah? So you're leaving me? No, it's not like that. You're leaving. We can still see each other. I can visit. We can call. You're leaving me. The wind suddenly rushed through the temple grounds. The trees began to sway. Something felt wrong. Hannah's shoulders started trembling. At first, he thought she was crying. Then the crying became louder and louder. You're leaving me. Hannah, listen. You're leaving me again. Richard froze. Again? The wind howled through the temple. Hannah slowly lifted her head. Tears streamed down her face. Then her skin began to change. You are leaving me again. Richard stumbled backward in horror as the woman he thought he knew revealed the monster beneath. 1950. Hannah was the eldest daughter of the Okari family, a respected family from a small village hidden in the countryside. Since childhood, she had been promised to Goto, the eldest son of another well-known family in the village. Their families had arranged their future before they were old enough to understand what marriage even meant. They grew up together, and everyone in the village believed they were destined to be husband and wife. For Hannah, there was never any other path. Her entire life had been leading to this moment, her wedding day. More than 100 guests gathered to celebrate. The ceremony was prepared. The food was ready, and the village waited to see Hannah become Goto's wife. Wearing her beautiful wedding kimono, Hannah sat inside her room patiently waiting for him. But Goto never came. At first, nobody was worried. They assumed something had delayed him. Maybe there was a problem on the road. Maybe something unexpected happened. But 1 hour passed, then 2. The smile on the guest's face slowly disappeared. Do you think he ran away? Don't say something like that. Then where is he? Nobody had an answer. Hannah remained in her room, still waiting. She believed he would walk through the door. She believed there had to be a reason. But as the hours passed, the truth became impossible to ignore. Goto was not coming. He had abandoned her. Slowly, the guests began leaving. The celebration that was supposed to mark the happiest day of Hannah's life became a day of humiliation. When the last guest left, Hannah locked herself inside her room. Her family begged her to open the door. Hannah, please let us in. Please talk to us. But she refused. Outside, a storm began. Rain poured over the village as thunder shook the sky. Behind the locked door, her family heard their daughter crying. Hours passed. Inside the room, Hannah remained in her wedding dress, completely alone. Her tears ruined her makeup, and the white kimono she had waited her whole life to wear became stained with sorrow. Eventually, she walked into the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back at her was not the bride she imagined becoming. She was broken. She grabbed a bottle from the counter and threw it at the mirror. She spent hours crying, screaming, and cursing Goto's name. She cursed the man who left her. She cursed the future he had stolen from her. She cursed the love she had believed in. The next morning, the family finally learned the truth. Goto had fled to the city. He wanted a new life away from the village. He didn't want to spend his future trapped in the same place following old traditions. And most importantly, he didn't want to marry Hannah. He left without a word. He left her alone. That morning, Hannah's mother opened the bedroom door, and she found her daughter lifeless inside. The girl who had spent her entire life waiting to become a bride had died before she ever became one. But Hannah's story didn't end there. The sound tore through Richard's body. He fell to the ground, covering his ears as pain exploded through his head. His vision blurred. His entire body shook as the woman's voice echoed through the temple. When the screaming finally stopped, Richard slowly looked up. The woman standing before him was no longer the Hannah he knew. The beautiful kimono remained unchanged. Her face was no longer human. Her skin looked rotten and lifeless. You finally came back. What are you? Don't you remember me, Goto? My name is Richard. My husband. I don't know you. You left me. I waited for you. Was I not good enough? Tell me, why? Why did you have to leave me? Before Richard could answer, Hannah launched herself at him. She slammed him onto the ground. Her jaws opened inches from his throat. Richard pushed against her with everything he had, trying to keep her teeth away. You always run. Richard reached blindly beside him and grabbed a handful of gravel. He threw it onto her face. Then she grabbed his arm. Her teeth sank into his flesh. She pulled away, chewing what she had taken. Delicious. Richard used the last of his strength and kicked her away. He ran. Behind him, Hannah laughed as she followed. She moved faster than anything human. The sweet perfume Richard once remembered was gone. Now the temple smelled like decay. He could hear her footsteps getting closer. Richard ran across the courtyard and towards the bridge, but there was nowhere left to go. The river beneath him was violent from the recent storms. The freezing water below was the only escape. He had no other choice. He jumped. Richard fought his way back to the surface, gasping for air. He looked around. She was gone. Using what little strength he had, Richard dragged himself onto the riverbank. Freezing, bleeding, broken, Richard knew he needed help. He went to the hospital. As he walked through the emergency room doors, one thought repeated in his mind. Nobody would believe him. A woman in a wedding dress attacked him. A monster tried to kill him. They would think he was insane. "Sir, what happened?" I was attacked by a large dog. "Do you have anyone we can contact? A family member? A wife?" No. I don't have a wife. I don't need a wife."
Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.